I was looking at standards-based assessment in the native language and looking at statewide assessments and the differences between ELL and non-ELL students. The measurement tool in this article, and I'll show you the article here in a minute, it looked at statewide assessments in math, science, and reading in grades 3 through 9. And it found at the end that the smallest gap between ELL and non-ELL students was in math, and the largest between the two groups was in reading, which makes sense. Like, without even looking at the research, that would make sense to me, because in math there's the least amount of reading and deciphering and having to understand language, because it's, for the most part, it's numbers. And then in reading, it's all about comprehension. And so that was the measurement tool that they looked at, was the statewide assessments in those different areas. And when we looked at reliability, the question I asked was, is it consistent? And they talked about, I said, when standardized tests are analyzed using only ELL data, the tests often show lower degrees of reliability. And the reason is because it usually doesn't follow the same normal distribution of scores. And if the whole group follows that normal distribution, but the subgroup, and in this case that's ELL students, it doesn't, then they say that the scores aren't reliable. They do say, however, though, it is more reliable than giving ELL students the test in English. So if you are going to give them a test, it is better to put it in their native language, but it still doesn't make it completely reliable. And I thought this was interesting, because the reality is the reliability is based on the scores produced and not from the property of the test. That was a little hard for me to wrap my mind around at first. And then validity. Does it measure what it says it will measure? And are those test items aligned with the standards? And do the test items do the following things when they're translated? Does the content remain the same as the original English version? The translation, is it evaluated through a quality control procedure referred to as a translation verification study? And is that done by a bilingual subject matter expert? And that's really important, that it's not just done by somebody that's only certified in one language. They talk about people having native speakers for the different languages, that being important, especially when they score them as well. And the standards I looked at were 3.12, 3.13, and 3.15. And so on 1.2 it says, when the test is translated and adapted from one to another, do they describe the methods used in establishing the adequacy of the adaptation and documenting empirical and logical evidence? So in this article, they didn't show us those numbers. They just said it was done by the testing companies. That's a little iffy to me. Standard 3.13, a test should be administered in the language that is most relevant and appropriate to the test purpose. This, I was surprised, does not happen in most states. In 2006-07, only 12 states did it, and only for 8 languages. Spanish was done in all 12 of those states, but the other languages ranged from Russian to Chinese to different things. And then on 3.15, test developers and publishers who claim that a test can be used with examinees from specific subgroups are responsible for providing the necessary information to support test score interpretations. This is where they say the test scores must be native speakers of the language they are scoring. And it is up to the testing companies to do this. It's not up to the individual states. And really, what we wanted to ask, what they were looking at in this article here, was, could performance be between ELL and non-ELL students be partially explained by language factors in the assessment? And they said that it could be. And then the other question they were asking themselves, or asking, was could the linguistic complexity of test items as a possible source of measurement error influence the reliability of the assessment? And they said that the language might act as a source of measurement error in such errors. They said, therefore, it's imperative that test publishers examine the impact of language factors on test reliability and publish reliability indexes separately for the ELL subpopulation. And I think that would be very important for us to look at, because yes, off the cuff, you say, yes, they need to be taking tests in their own language, but just because they're doing that doesn't mean that that test is going to be reliable. And that's it. Thank you.